My best friend slept with my boyfriend, so I exposed them both at her birthday party. Sienna and I met when we were 15, two awkward girls who somehow found a mirror in each other. From the first day of high school, it felt like we'd been destined to collide. We were opposites. She was the loud, fearless one, and I was the quiet, observant girl who lived more in my head than in the world. But somehow it worked. She could make me laugh when I didn't want to, and I could calm her down when her emotions went too far. Together we were balance. By senior year, we were inseparable. People joked that if you saw one of us without the other, something was wrong. We shared everything: secrets, makeup, heartbreaks, and plans for the future. And when college decisions came around, we swore we wouldn't let life separate us. Same school or no school, she said, holding up her pinky. I laughed, but I meant it too. We both ended up at the same university 2 states away, majoring in completely different things. But it didn't matter. We had each other. College was supposed to be a new beginning, but it was really just an extension of what we already were. We lived in the same dorm our first year, decorating our tiny shared room with fairy lights and Polaroids. Our weekends were chaotic. Study sessions that turned into dance parties, long drives with cheap coffee, and late-night talks about love and who we wanted to be. She was the sister I'd chosen. Back then, if someone told me she'd be the one to break me, I would have laughed in their face, because Sienna would never hurt me. That's what I thought. I met Noah in our sophomore year. He was charming in that effortless way that made everyone like him without trying. He wasn't the typical college player type. He was calm, mature, a little mysterious. The first time I saw him was at a friend's birthday party. I was sitting by the fire pit, half bored, half hoping the night would end soon, when he came over and asked if the seat beside me was taken. We started talking, and within minutes it felt easy, comfortable, like I'd known him longer than the few minutes we'd spent together. When he walked me back to my dorm, Sienna was waiting at the door with that mischievous grin of hers. "Who was that?" she asked immediately. "No one," I said, trying to hide the smile I couldn't stop. She raised a brow. "No one doesn't look at you like that." It didn't take long for Noah and me to become official. He was attentive in the ways that mattered, texting good morning before my classes, walking me home after late lectures, bringing coffee when I was buried in assignments. It wasn't dramatic or intense. It was simple and steady, and that felt safe. Sienna was thrilled, or at least she seemed to be. She and Noah got along quickly, maybe too quickly. She'd joke about how her best friend finally found a good guy and how she approved of this one. At the time, I thought it was sweet. 2 people I loved getting along. I didn't see anything wrong with it. The 3 of us started hanging out more often. Movie nights at my dorm, road trips to the lake, study sessions that turned into board game battles. Sienna was always there, like she always had been, part of my every memory. Sometimes I'd catch her teasing Noah more than usual, calling him out on things only I should have noticed. I told myself it was harmless. That was Sienna. Playful, a little flirty, but never serious. She flirted with life, not people. That's what I told myself to ignore the tiny sting in my chest. One afternoon, a few months into my relationship, Sienna came over while I was waiting for Noah. He was supposed to meet me for lunch after class, but he texted saying he'd be late. I shrugged it off. Sienna plopped onto my bed and said, "You know, Noah's really something." I laughed. "Something like what?" She shrugged, her voice too casual. "Just, he's good to you. You deserve that." I smiled, touched. "Yeah, he is." She looked at me for a long moment, then smiled too, but something about it didn't reach her eyes. "You're lucky, Ava," she said softly. "Guys like him don't come around often." That night, Noah texted me goodnight like always. But there was a weird gap, an hour when he hadn't replied earlier, which wasn't like him. I brushed it off as nothing. People get busy. Still, something about Sienna's voice from earlier stuck with me. I told myself I was overthinking. I'd always been the overthinker, the analyzer, the one who read too deeply into things. Sienna was spontaneous. I was cautious. It's what made us work. As months passed, life fell into a rhythm again. Classes, parties, nights out, lazy Sundays, everything seemed fine on the surface, but little things started to shift in ways I couldn't quite name. Sienna started borrowing my clothes more often, especially the ones I knew Noah liked. She'd ask for his number for group plans, and I didn't think twice. When I'd show up at her dorm, sometimes she'd be dressed up already saying, "Oh, Noah texted me about the plan. We're meeting there, right?" It was little things, tiny cracks in what used to feel unbreakable. One night I remember catching her looking at him during dinner. Not just looking, watching. Her eyes lingered a little too long, her laugh came a little too easily. I tried to convince myself I was imagining it, that jealousy was turning me into someone I wasn't. I trusted them both. I had to, because if I didn't, then everything, our friendship, my relationship, would crumble. So I stayed silent, but silence doesn't stop the truth from growing louder. There was this one weekend in early spring when Noah said he was visiting his family out of town. Sienna and I planned a girls' night. Movies, junk food, just like old times. But an hour before she was supposed to come over, she texted saying she wasn't feeling well and would probably just stay in. I told her to rest and didn't think much of it. Until 2 days later when I noticed a picture she posted, a photo of a coffee mug on a wooden table captioned, "Peaceful Weekend." The background looked familiar. Too familiar, because I'd seen that same table, that same mug in a photo Noah had sent me from his family home. It was a small detail, stupid even, but my stomach dropped. I zoomed in again and again, hoping I was wrong. I wanted to be wrong, but something in my gut told me I wasn't. I didn't confront either of them, not yet. Instead, I did what I'd always done when things didn't make sense. I observed. I waited. I started noticing more. The way Noah's phone would light up with notifications he ignored. The way Sienna avoided eye contact when his name came up. How she'd suddenly change the subject if I mentioned him. The signs were there. I'd just been too loyal to see them. Looking back, maybe I should have confronted them then. Maybe it would have hurt less if I'd ripped the truth out early instead of letting it rot inside me. But I didn't. I couldn't. Because deep down, I still wanted to believe in the people I loved. I remember one night vividly. A stormy evening, thunder rattling the windows. Sienna had come over, saying she didn't want to be alone during the storm. We made popcorn, put on an old movie, and laughed about stupid things. But halfway through, she got a text and her entire face changed. Her laughter stopped. "Everything okay?" I asked. She nodded too quickly. "Yeah, just my cousin asking about class stuff." She locked her phone, but I caught the name before the screen went dark. Noah. That was the first time the truth felt real. A chill went through me so sharp it almost made me dizzy. She noticed me looking and smiled, forced and awkward. I pretended not to see. We finished the movie in silence. When she left, I sat in the dark for a long time, my chest heavy, my thoughts a mess of denial and dread. My best friend and my boyfriend, the two people who knew me best, the two people who swore they loved me. It couldn't be true. But some part of me already knew it was. I just didn't have proof yet. And proof, that's what I decided I needed. That night, I made myself a quiet promise. I wasn't going to cry. Not yet. Not until I knew for sure. And if I found out they were betraying me, I wasn't going to scream or beg or ask why. I was going to make sure they both learned what it felt like to be broken in front of a crowd. Because love, I realized that night, turns into rage when it's betrayed deeply enough. And I was just beginning to understand what that kind of rage could do. The next few weeks became a blur of denial wrapped in routine. I went to class, I laughed with Sienna, I kissed Noah goodnight, and I lied to myself every single day. Everything looked normal from the outside, but underneath it all, something inside me had cracked. It wasn't loud, it was silent, like the slow splintering of glass. I started noticing things I used to ignore. Little inconsistencies, tiny moments that didn't add up. Noah's new cologne that smelled suspiciously like the one Sienna used to wear. His phone always face down on the table now. The sudden way Sienna would lock her screen whenever I walked into her dorm room. They thought they were clever. They thought I was blind. But love doesn't make you blind, it makes you patient. I remember one night in particular. We were at a small get-together at a mutual friend's apartment. The music was low, the lights dim, people laughing over cheap beer and pizza. Noah was across the room talking to someone, and Sienna was beside me on the couch, scrolling through her phone. When I looked over, I caught the faintest reflection on her screen, a name starting with N. Before I could see the rest, she tilted her phone away and smiled at me like nothing happened. "What?" she asked. I forced a laugh. "Nothing. Just zoning out." She nodded, unconcerned. But I didn't stop watching her after that. Every time she reached for her phone, I felt my stomach tighten. One night, Noah came over to my apartment late, saying he'd been busy with work. He smelled like her. I knew it instantly, the faint, floral perfume that lingered around Sienna's hair. I asked where he'd been, pretending to sound casual. "Just grabbing drinks with a few guys," he said without looking me in the eye. I smiled, kissed him on the cheek, and said, "That's nice." He never noticed how long I stared at him after that. The truth was becoming clearer by the day, but I wasn't ready to face it. My mind was fighting itself, one side screaming he's cheating, the other whispering they wouldn't do that to you. But that whisper grew quieter each time they gave me another reason not to trust them. Still, I played my part perfectly. I smiled. I joked. I acted like the same Ava I'd always been. If they were going to betray me, I'd let them think they were winning. Then one night, everything changed. I was at Noah's apartment while he was in the shower. His phone buzzed on the coffee table, and normally, I wouldn't have looked. But something inside me snapped. The screen lit up. A message preview appeared. "Sienna, can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again?" The words burned into my eyes. My chest went cold, my hands numb. I picked up the phone, staring at it like it was some kind of weapon. There were dozens of messages. I scrolled without breathing. "Don't tell her. She almost caught me today. When are you leaving her?" My world tilted. I felt the blood rush to my ears, my heart hammering so fast it hurt. Every memory, the nights we all hung out, the jokes, the smiles, turned into poison in my head. When Noah came out of the shower, towel around his waist, smiling like nothing had happened. I thought I might actually be sick. What's wrong? He asked. I looked up at him and said, nothing, just tired. My voice was calm, too calm. He kissed my forehead, completely unaware that the life he'd built with me was already burning to ash in my mind. That night I cried until I couldn't breathe. Not loud, messy sobs, just quiet, shaking tears that left my body hollow. The kind of crying that doesn't need sound because the silence is already screaming. My best friend and my boyfriend. Together. Behind my back. The two people who had promised to love me the most were the ones destroying me in secret. I kept thinking about Sienna's laugh. How genuine it always sounded. How many times had she hugged me, knowing what she'd done? How many times had she looked me in the eyes and lied? But somewhere in that storm of heartbreak, something inside me hardened. I realized I was done being the girl who got hurt quietly. If they wanted to play dirty, I could play smarter. I wasn't going to confront them, not yet. I wasn't going to scream or beg for explanations. I was going to destroy them from the inside out, the same way they had done to me. So I started planning. The first thing I did was gather evidence. It wasn't hard. Noah was careless. Sienna was even worse. I began with screenshots, messages, call logs, photos. I even synced his phone to my laptop while he was asleep. Every whisper of their affair became a digital record. I had proof of the lies, the meetings, the hotel receipts. Each discovery hurt, but each one also made me stronger. Pain turned into focus. Next came the recordings. I knew their patterns by then. Noah would study late, and Sienna would crash early. So I followed. I didn't need to see them together again, I just needed the sound. One night, I left my phone recording in Noah's car before he picked her up. When I got it back, the audio was enough to end both of them. Her voice, his voice, laughter between kisses. I remember listening once, then deleting the rest. I didn't need to torture myself with details. I just needed confirmation, and now I had it. I became two people after that. By day, I was the perfect girlfriend and best friend, smiling, loving, loyal. By night, I was the strategist, the quiet storm building in secret. I went to Sienna's dorm like nothing was wrong, helped her plan her upcoming 21st birthday, laughed at her jokes. Every time she hugged me, I thought, soon you'll wish you never touched me. She had no idea. Neither of them did. The closer her birthday got, the more detailed my plan became. She asked me to make a slideshow for the party, a video celebrating our years of friendship. The irony almost made me laugh. Of course, I said sweetly. You know I love that stuff. She smiled and hugged me. You're the best, Ava. I hugged her back, smiling at the sound of her betrayal still echoing in my head. I spent nights editing. The first half of the slideshow was perfect. Our photos through the years, old clips, laughter, moments that once felt real. But halfway through, the tone shifted. Screenshots appeared. Her messages to Noah, his replies, the receipts, the photos. It was seamless, so smooth that no one would see it coming until it was too late. I rehearsed the reveal in my head again and again. The moment the music would stop, the silence that would follow, her face when the truth hit. But before that night came, I still had to keep up the act. There were close calls, moments when Noah would look at me too long, like he could sense I was slipping away. Once he asked, "Everything okay between us?" I smiled and touched his hand. Of course. Why wouldn't it be? He smiled, relieved. I almost laughed at how easy it was to fool him. They had underestimated me completely. Sienna was even more oblivious. She'd text me details about the party, asking for my opinion on decorations, food, guest list. Every time I saw her name pop up on my screen, I felt a rush of both hatred and satisfaction. "This is going to be the best night of my life," she texted one afternoon. I smiled at the screen and whispered, "Mine too." In the days leading up to the party, I rehearsed every detail of what I would do. What I would wear, what I would say if anyone asked why I left afterward. I even planned my smile, the calm, cold smile of someone who finally takes back her power. I wasn't nervous. I wasn't scared. I was patient. By the time the night of the party arrived, I was ready. Every piece was in place. Every secret was waiting to be exposed. They thought I didn't know. They thought I was still blind. But the truth was, I'd never seen them more clearly in my life. The night of Sienna's birthday arrived like a performance I'd been rehearsing for months. Every detail felt choreographed. The dress I chose, the polite smile I practiced in the mirror, the way I told myself to breathe and not shake. Her party was being held at a rented venue just outside campus, one of those rooftop lounges with string lights and a view of the city. It was the kind of place Sienna had always dreamed about, elegant, loud, full of people she wanted to impress. And tonight, everyone would be there. Her family, her classmates, mutual friends, even professors. It was her night, her celebration, and I was about to turn it into a requiem. I arrived early, as planned. She ran up to hug me, her perfume sweet and cloying. "You look stunning," she said, gripping my shoulders. "I can't believe you did all this for me." "You're seriously the best," I smiled. "You deserve it," I lied. She didn't notice the chill beneath my words. Her trust in me was still unbroken, an irony that almost made me pity her. Almost. I'd spent the past week perfecting the presentation. The slideshow file was stored on a small flash drive tucked into my clutch, labeled innocently as birthday memories. Inside it, the first half was filled with pictures of our friendship, photos of sleepovers, our first college dorm, vacation selfies, and inside jokes. The second half was where everything changed. I'd carefully woven the evidence in like stitches in a wound. The texts, the photos, the voice recordings transcribed into captions, the screenshots of hotel bookings. The cuts between each image were clean and cinematic. It wouldn't just expose them, it would humiliate them. And that was the point. The crowd grew quickly. People filled the room with laughter and chatter, clinking glasses, taking selfies. I watched them with detached calm, standing near the table where the projector was set up. My heart was steady, almost too steady. It was a strange kind of peace, the peace of someone who had already lost everything worth losing. Then Noah walked in. My breath caught just for a second. He looked exactly the same, confident, charming, perfectly put together in that dark button-up shirt he knew I liked. He spotted me immediately, crossing the room with that same familiar smile. "Hey, gorgeous," he said softly. "You look amazing." I forced a small smile. "You too." He leaned in to kiss me, but I turned slightly, letting his lips graze my cheek instead. If he noticed, he didn't show it. "You okay?" he asked. "Of course," I said smoothly. "Just a little tired." He nodded, brushing my arm. "I'm glad you're here." The audacity of that sentence almost made me laugh. He had no idea that in less than an hour his carefully built world was about to implode. Sienna made her grand entrance around 8. She wore a shimmering silver dress, her hair curled perfectly, a crown of rhinestones sitting on her head like she was the queen of her own tragedy. Everyone cheered as she walked in. She waved, radiant and proud, and my stomach twisted, not with envy but with the bitter taste of what she had destroyed. She saw me across the room and beamed, rushing over to grab my hands. "Can you believe it?" she said breathlessly. "I'm 21. Finally legal." "Finally," I echoed. My voice was soft, but something inside it made her blink like she sensed something she couldn't name. "You okay?" she asked. "You seem distant." "Just overwhelmed," I said. "It's a big night." The hours passed in slow motion. People danced, drank, and toasted to Sienna's bright future. I floated through it all like a ghost, smiling at everyone, saying all the right things. When Noah wrapped an arm around my waist later in the evening, I let him. When Sienna came over to clink glasses with us, I laughed at her jokes. It was all part of the act. They both looked so happy, so sure they were untouchable. The irony was delicious. Finally, as the night reached its peak, Sienna's mother clinked a glass and announced that it was time for the birthday surprise, the slideshow. "Ava put this together," she said warmly. "She's been working on it for weeks." People cheered. Sienna turned to me, eyes shining. "You're seriously the sweetest person alive." I smiled, stepping toward the laptop. "You have no idea." The lights dimmed. Music began, a soft, nostalgic tune from our teenage years. The first photos appeared, Sienna and me at 15, wearing ridiculous Halloween costumes. A selfie from our first road trip, a blurry clip of us singing in the car. The room filled with laughter and fond sighs. I stood at the side of the room watching their faces, the warmth, the affection. I waited. Then came the shift. It started subtly, a transition that looked like another friendly picture, but lingered a little too long. The next image appeared, and the laughter faltered. It was a screenshot of a text. "Sienna, don't tell her about us." "Noah." "I won't. She's too naive to notice." A few people in the crowd chuckled awkwardly, assuming it was some kind of joke. Then the next slide appeared. More messages, more proof. "Sienna, when are you leaving her for me?" "Noah, soon. Just be patient, baby." The music stopped. The room went dead silent. Someone gasped. I didn't move. My heart was steady. Then came the photos. Grainy but clear enough. Sienna and Noah in his car, kissing. The hotel receipts. The time-stamped screenshots. The final image was a picture of Sienna's birthday invitation, overlaid with the words, "Happy birthday. Betrayal looks good on you." Sienna froze. The color drained from her face. Noah's eyes went wide, then narrowed as he lunged toward the laptop. "Turn it off," he barked, but one of Sienna's cousins blocked him. People were whispering now, pulling out their phones, filming. Someone yelled, "Is this real?" Another voice, "Oh my God, that's Noah!" Sienna stumbled forward, her voice shaking. "Ava, what the hell is this?" I met her eyes and smiled, a small, cold smile. "The truth." She blinked rapidly, her mascara streaking as tears welled. How could you? How could I?" I cut her off. "That's a funny question coming from you." Noah grabbed my wrist, hissing, "We can talk about this later." I yanked my hand back. "We already did. You just didn't know it." For a moment, chaos filled the room, shouting, confusion. People whispering Sienna's name like it was a curse. Her parents looked horrified. Her friends avoided her eyes. Noah stormed toward the exit, muttering curses under his breath. Sienna stood frozen in the middle of it all, trembling, her perfect birthday crown crooked on her head. I took one last look at her, then reached for my clutch. "Happy birthday, Sienna," I said softly. "I hope it's unforgettable." Then I walked out, leaving the stunned silence behind me. The night air hit me like freedom. I could still hear the murmurs and shouting fading behind me, but I didn't turn back. I walked to my car, heels clicking against the pavement, hands trembling slightly, not from regret, but from release. I sat in the driver's seat for a long time, staring at the city lights. For the first time in months, I felt calm. People think revenge is loud, that it's fire and screaming and chaos. But it isn't. It's quiet. It's a single moment of truth finally cutting through months of lies. As I drove away that night, I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just breathed deeply, for what felt like the first time since I'd seen that message on Noah's phone. By the time I got home, my phone was blowing up. Missed calls, messages, notifications. Sienna's name flashing again and again. I didn't answer. I turned it off, placed it face down on my nightstand, and stared at the ceiling. I thought about the look on her face when the screen went dark, the silence that swallowed her whole. I thought about Noah's expression, the realization, the panic. And I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who trusted too easily, who believed loyalty was unbreakable. She was gone now. In her place was someone new. Someone who knew exactly what betrayal felt like, and exactly how to return it. The fallout began before sunrise. My phone lit up with calls from unknown numbers, messages pouring in faster than I could read them. Some were from classmates, half in shock, half in admiration. "I can't believe you did that. You're a legend." Others were from people I barely knew, wanting details, screenshots, confirmation. Then came the calls from Sienna and Noah, her name flashing again and again, his following right after. I didn't answer either. I lay in bed in the dark, staring at the screen until the battery died. I wasn't ready to hear their voices, not yet. I wanted them to sit in it first, to feel that endless, nauseating silence I'd lived in for weeks while they laughed behind my back. When I finally got up, the morning felt strange. The world outside looked exactly the same. The sun was shining, the city humming, but I wasn't the same person anymore. I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened my laptop. Social media was already on fire. Someone had filmed the reveal, and within hours it had spread like wildfire across campus. The clip was everywhere, on group chats, student forums, even meme pages. The comments were brutal. "That's what you get for sleeping with your best friend's boyfriend. Imagine cheating and getting exposed at your own party. Ava's a savage." My name was trending for the first time in my life, and it wasn't for anything I ever planned. I should have felt triumphant, maybe even proud. Instead, I just felt empty. Revenge is strange like that. It gives you what you wanted, but it doesn't feel the way you expect. By noon, I decided to face it. I turned my phone back on. 43 missed calls, 17 voicemails. The first few were from friends checking in. Then came Sienna's, her voice trembling, broken, begging. "Ava, please, just talk to me." "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. Please, we were drunk. It was a mistake. I didn't want to hurt you. I love you. Please pick up." I listened to the whole thing without emotion. The girl on the recording wasn't my best friend anymore. She was just the echo of someone I used to trust. Then came Noah's voice. "Ava, please, you don't understand." It wasn't what it looked like. It wasn't serious. "I made a mistake, okay? Please, let me explain." I laughed out loud. The kind of laugh that comes from disbelief rather than humor. "Wasn't serious?" I muttered to myself. "Guess it's serious enough when you're sneaking around for months." The next message was angrier. "Fine, if that's how you want to play it, go ahead. You think humiliating me makes you better? You're pathetic." I stopped the voicemail halfway through and deleted it. There was nothing left to say. Campus felt different when I walked through it the next day. People stared, whispered, smiled at me like I was a story instead of a person. Some girls nodded at me in quiet solidarity. Others gave me cautious looks like they weren't sure if I was someone to fear or pity. In one of my morning classes, a girl I barely knew leaned over and whispered, "What you did was iconic." I smiled politely, but inside I felt something twist. I hadn't done it for fame or approval. I'd done it because it was the only way to make them feel what they made me feel. Small, exposed, powerless. But now, watching the aftermath unfold, I realized something new. Power comes with a price. Later that week, I saw Sienna on campus for the first time since the party. She looked nothing like the girl I used to know. Her eyes were swollen, her makeup half done like she hadn't slept in days. When she spotted me outside the student union, she froze. For a second, neither of us moved. Then she walked over, her steps hesitant. "Ava," she said softly. Her voice cracked on my name. I said nothing. "Please," she whispered. "Can we talk?" I wanted to say no, but something in me needed to hear what she'd say. We walked to a quiet bench behind the library. The same place we used to sit during freshman year when the world still made sense. She sat down first, fidgeting with her sleeves. "I know I can't take back what I did," she said. "I know you'll never forgive me, but I swear it wasn't supposed to happen like this." "Like this?" I repeated, my voice flat. "You mean the part where you slept with my boyfriend or the part where you got caught?" Tears filled her eyes. "I didn't plan it, Ava. I swear I didn't. It just happened." I stared at her, amazed. "You just happened to betray your best friend? You just happened to keep it secret for months?" She looked down, silent. "He told me things," she whispered finally. "He said you were distant, that you didn't love him anymore. I thought he was telling the truth." You thought what?" I snapped. "That you'd swoop in and fix him? That somehow stabbing me in the back was justified?" She started crying then, loud, messy sobs that drew a few curious glances from people walking by. "I didn't comfort her," I let her cry. "I wanted her to feel what I'd felt that night I found the messages." After a long silence, she whispered, "I lost everyone. My parents won't talk to me. My friends blocked me. I can't even walk to class without people whispering. You ruined me?" I looked her dead in the eye and said, "No, Sienna, you ruined yourself." She flinched like I'd hit her. For a second, I thought she might say something else, but instead she just stood up and walked away. I watched her leave, her figure small against the gray sky. I expected to feel satisfaction, but all I felt was tired. A few days later, I heard that Noah had dropped out. He couldn't handle the attention. Rumor had it his parents found out and cut him off financially. Some part of me wanted to feel bad, but I didn't. I'd given both of them the same pain they'd given me, the public humiliation, the isolation, the loss. Justice, I told myself. Balance. But as the days passed, that word started to lose meaning. One night, a few weeks after everything, I was sitting in my apartment when there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find Sienna's roommate, looking uneasy. "I don't want to freak you out," she said, "but you might want to check on her." My chest tightened. "Why? She's been not okay," she said carefully. "She barely leaves her room. She's not eating. I think she's really depressed." For a moment, the room tilted. I thanked her and closed the door, then sank onto the couch, my mind spinning. I hadn't thought about what came after. I'd wanted her to feel pain, yes, but I hadn't considered how deep that pain might go. The image of her crying on that bench replayed in my head, her voice breaking as she said, "You ruined me." I told myself it wasn't my fault, that she made her own choices, that all I did was show the truth. But that night, I didn't sleep. The line between justice and cruelty blurred in the dark. The next morning, I went to the park, the one place where my mind used to quiet down. The trees were bare, the air crisp. I sat on a bench and watched strangers pass, their lives untouched by mine. For the first time since the party, I felt the weight of everything I'd done settle on me. I'd spent weeks plotting revenge, but not 1 minute figuring out how to live after it. My phone buzzed. A new message from an unknown number. I opened it hesitantly. "Sienna, I know you hate me. You have every right to, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything." I stared at the screen for a long time, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Finally, I typed one word, "Ava." I know, I didn't forgive her. I didn't respond again. But somehow, that tiny message felt like the only closure I was ever going to get. For the first time in months, I felt something like peace. Not joy, not victory. Just peace. The quiet kind that comes when you've burned every bridge and finally stopped looking back. 2 months passed before the dust truly began to settle. The gossip faded. The stares softened. And campus slowly forgot the details of the scandal that had once felt like an earthquake. People always move on. They find a new story, a new drama, a new villain. I had learned that by then. The world doesn't stop for your heartbreak. It just replaces it with someone else's. For a while, I floated through my days in a strange kind of numbness. I went to class, did my assignments, ate when I remembered, slept when my body gave in. My life had quieted, but it wasn't peace. It was emptiness. Sometimes in the silence of my apartment, I caught myself missing her. Not the Sienna who betrayed me, but the Sienna I'd grown up with. The girl who stayed up all night laughing over junk food, who held my hand through high school heartbreaks, who called me soul sister without irony. That version of her existed once, and some nights I hated her for dying before I got the chance to say goodbye. Then there were the moments when anger came back. Like when I'd walk past the cafe we used to go to and remember seeing Noah's hoodie on her once, pretending it was borrowed because she was cold. I'd remember his hands on me and wonder if they'd touched her the same way in secret. Those thoughts poisoned me if I let them linger too long. So I buried them under routine. But life, in its cruel symmetry, has a way of testing how much you've really healed. One chilly evening in early spring, I was walking home from class when I saw Noah across the street. He looked thinner, his hair a little longer, his confidence gone. For a split second, our eyes met. I froze. He hesitated, then crossed the road toward me. "Ava," he said quietly. I stood still, clutching my books tighter. What do you want, Noah? He exhaled, his voice unsteady. I just wanted to talk. Please, one last time. Every instinct told me to walk away. But closure is a tricky thing. It tempts you with the illusion of control. So I nodded. 5 minutes. We sat on a nearby bench, the cold metal seeping through my jeans. He ran a hand through his hair, staring at the ground. I've been trying to figure out how to say I'm sorry, he started. You've had months, I said flatly. I know. I messed up. I was stupid, weak. I don't even know why I did it. It wasn't about her, it was about me, I laughed bitterly. Oh, so you cheated because of a self-discovery journey? He flinched but didn't argue. You were always so good, Ava, so certain. And I felt like I wasn't enough. Sienna made me feel wanted. I stared at him, disgusted. You destroyed 2 people's lives because your ego needed attention? He nodded slowly. Yeah, I guess I did. There was no satisfaction in hearing it. No vindication. Just a hollow ache where love used to live. You know what the worst part was? I said finally. It wasn't the cheating. It was that you made me feel crazy for suspecting it. You made me doubt myself. He looked up at me then, guilt etched deep in his face. I know, and I hate myself for it. I believed him for what it was worth. But that didn't change anything. Good, I said simply. You should. I stood to leave, but he grabbed my wrist, not rough, just desperate. Do you ever miss us, he asked. I pulled my hand free. I miss who I thought you were. That's not the same thing. He nodded, eyes glassy. I deserve that. You deserve worse, I said softly and walked away. That night I deleted his number for good. It felt final this time, not like anger, but like closure. Weeks later, Sienna reached out again, not through a call or a message, but through a letter. It was slipped under my door one morning, her handwriting unmistakable. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity won. Ava, I don't expect you to forgive me. I wouldn't if I were you, but I needed to say this anyway. I've spent the last few months trying to understand why I did what I did. There's no excuse. You trusted me, and I broke that trust in the worst way possible. I don't think I'll ever stop regretting it. I lost my best friend, and I know I'll never earn that back. You were always the better person between us, even when you didn't see it. I hope someday you can find peace, even if that peace doesn't include me. Sienna, I read it once, then again, my throat tightening with a mix of sadness and something close to pity. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. But that night I didn't dream about revenge or betrayal. I dreamed about us, 2 teenage girls under the stars, making promises we thought would last forever. Time passed. Slowly the bitterness began to fade, like ink dissolving in water. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped replaying old conversations. I started building something new myself. I focused on my studies, joined a campus art group, began painting again. There was something healing about creating beauty out of chaos. One afternoon during a quiet session in the studio, one of my classmates, a kind, soft-spoken guy named Ryan, sat next to me. You've got this way of painting storms, he said, watching me mix shades of gray and gold. They always look like they're about to break but never do. I smiled faintly. That's kind of the point. He nodded thoughtfully. You must have been through something. I looked at the canvas, at the swirl of clouds I'd been shaping for weeks. Yeah, I said quietly. But I survived it. And I had. Months later, at a campus exhibition, my painting sold. The title was simple, The Birthday. No one knew the story behind it. To most, it was just a dramatic mix of light and shadow, a girl standing in the middle of a storm. But to me, it was everything. The destruction, the rebirth, the silence that comes after a scream. Sometimes people asked if I regretted what I'd done, if exposing them so publicly was too cruel. I never gave a direct answer. The truth was complicated. I didn't regret defending myself. I didn't regret taking back control. But I did regret how much of myself I had to lose in the process. There are moments even now when I think about that night. The music fading, the gasps, the silence after the final slide. Sometimes it feels like victory. Other times it feels like grief. Because revenge, I've learned, doesn't erase pain. It just passes it along. And eventually it finds its way back to you. But even so, if I could go back, if I had to live it all again, the betrayal, the heartbreak, the rage, I wouldn't change a thing. Because that night didn't destroy me. It built me. It stripped away everything false and left only what was real, and what was real was me. It's been a year now since that night, the night I pressed play and burned everything I thought I knew to the ground. Sometimes it feels like it happened yesterday, other times like it belongs to someone else entirely. Life has a way of turning even the most painful memories into quiet ghosts that visit you when the world goes still. You don't talk to them anymore, you just nod, acknowledge their presence, and let them fade again. After graduation, I left the city. I needed space, a clean slate, something that didn't smell like betrayal. I moved to a small coastal town a few hours away, rented a tiny apartment above a cafe, and started working as a freelance designer. It's quiet here. The ocean hums outside my window every morning, and the air smells like salt and rain. There are no familiar faces, no whispers behind my back, no memories waiting for me at every corner. Just peace, and me learning how to exist without the noise. For a long time, I didn't tell anyone the full story. People here know me as the quiet girl who drinks too much coffee and always carries a sketchbook. They don't know that I once stood in front of a crowd and dismantled 2 lives with a slideshow. They don't know that my best friend's face haunts my dreams sometimes, not because I miss her, but because part of me still wonders if she ever truly loved me before everything fell apart. Healing wasn't instant. It came in fragments. Morning walks by the sea, journaling at 2 a.m., forgiving myself for being angry. I used to think forgiveness meant letting someone back into your life. Now I know it just means freeing yourself from the weight they left behind. Sienna reached out once more, months after her letter. A simple email this time. No excuses, no begging. Just a line that said, "I hope you're okay. I think about you sometimes." I stared at it for a while, then archived it. I didn't delete it. Maybe because it didn't feel like poison anymore. Just a memory, folded neatly and put away. I heard through mutual friends that she transferred to another university, somewhere far away. She's apparently doing better now. Part of me is glad. Another part, the one that's still raw, wonders if she ever tells her side of the story differently. Maybe in her version, I'm the villain, the one who destroyed her life out of spite. Maybe that's easier for her to believe. But I've learned that everyone is the villain in someone else's story. As for Noah, I haven't heard from him since that day on the bench. I think he moved back to his hometown, maybe trying to rebuild whatever was left of him. There was a time when I would have wanted to know more, where he worked, whether he regretted losing me. But now I don't care. He's a closed chapter, a name that no longer holds power. One evening, months after moving here, I was walking along the shoreline when I saw a couple laughing by the water. The girl was throwing pebbles into the waves, the boy chasing after her, both of them glowing in that careless way only love can create. For a moment, I felt something stir in my chest, a sharp ache of longing mixed with peace. I didn't envy them. I just understood them. I understood that love isn't the enemy. Betrayal is, and if you're lucky, you learn the difference before it hardens your heart completely. That night, I sat on my balcony watching the sunset bleed into the ocean, and for the first time, I allowed myself to cry. Not out of pain, but release. I cried for the girl who once thought love was unbreakable, for the friend who lost her way, for the version of me who thought revenge was the only way to heal. The waves below kept rolling in, erasing every footprint on the sand like nothing had ever happened there. That's what time does. It washes over everything until even the sharpest edges turn smooth. In the quiet that followed, I realized something simple. Revenge hadn't healed me. Time had, distance had, facing myself had. The act of exposing them didn't give me peace, it just gave me silence. The real healing came after, in the moments where no one was watching, when I rebuilt the parts of myself they had broken. Now, when I look back, I don't see the slideshow or the chaos that followed. I see the lesson beneath it all. I see a girl who learned that trust is a gift, not a guarantee. That betrayal doesn't define you. Your response to it does. That sometimes the strongest thing you can do isn't to strike back, but to walk away without looking over your shoulder. A few weeks ago, I met someone new. His name is Liam. He's gentle in a way that doesn't feel forced, the kind of person who listens more than he talks. We met at the cafe downstairs when he accidentally spilled coffee on my sketchbook. He apologized so many times that I couldn't help but laugh. Now we meet there every morning talking about everything and nothing. I haven't told him my story, not yet. But when he looks at me, I don't see pity or curiosity. I just see presence. And maybe for now, that's enough. Sometimes I think about that night at Sienna's party, the faces frozen in shock, the silence that swallowed the room, the sound of my own heels on the floor as I walked away. I used to replay it over and over, but now it feels like watching an old movie, something powerful once but no longer mine. I don't hate the girl I was then. She did what she needed to survive. She made sure the world saw what had been hidden. But I've learned there's a difference between justice and peace. One gives you closure. The other gives you freedom. I keep a single Polaroid from those years in a small box under my bed. It's one of me and Sienna from high school, our arms wrapped around each other, our smiles bright and naive. Sometimes, when I look at it, I don't see betrayal. I just see 2 girls who loved each other once before life got messy, and that's enough. You can grieve something and still let it go. Every morning the sun rises over the water outside my window. It paints everything gold, even the scars, and I've stopped wishing things had gone differently. Because in some strange way, every lie, every heartbreak, every moment of rage led me here, to this quiet, to this strength, to this version of myself who doesn't need revenge to feel powerful anymore. They took my trust, yes, but I took my life back, and that's the kind of revenge that actually lasts forever.